The night was cold, the road was long. A whisper said, "You won't go on." The shadow stood beside my breath. I looked straight in the eyes of death. 1,000 storms inside my chest, a fragile heart that would not rest. But something deep pulled me through.
Okay, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. For thou art with me, the rod and your staff, they comfort me. Those are exact liftings from the Psalms of David. Beyond just the reality that David went through in his lifetime before he became king and while he was king, we have real life and real people that have also walked through the valley of the shadow of death. Well, welcome to another exciting episode of Untold Story, and this is the session for the cheated death. Today, I'm going to be bringing to you another classic example within our community of people who are currently, we're not talking about them in the past, we're talking them in the present continuous. Those who can say, I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, and in my case, mercy showed up and mercy said no. And this is put together to inspire those who are still in the valley of the shadow of death. They probably are sitting down at home depressed because you've got a sentence of death as a result of a diagnosis. Some of us are in deep pain, and we probably are not thinking of any other thing than to end our lives and think life is not worth living. We want to inspire you that today's pain is not the end of the world. There are people who are living with us who have had to confront death in his face, and the mercy of God showed up. Today, I'm bringing to the microphone and in the studio today. Well, it took us a while to get her to be here because she doesn't like these spotlights, you know. She would rather do her thing. She's at her best when the cameras are not on and many eyes are not on her. Maybe at most one eye. She can do all her paparazzi and all that if it's just her and her husband. But now, before the entire crew and the listenership of Untold Story, we had to do a lot of prepping, a lot of fasting and praying. But thank God, the prayer worked. She's finally in the studio. So please, welcome with me, Mrs. Chiamaka Irozuru, to the Untold Story interview and to this very wonderful engagement. Chiamaka, how you doing? You see now, there's no big deal about being on this seat.
After 1 hour, I'll say so.
After 1 hour, you say so.
Thank you so much, sir, for having me.
Yes, it's good. We are very glad to have you. All right. So usually, I mean, of course, you know the drill. Our first icebreaker is basically to meet the guests. You know, so if you have like 5 minutes to talk about yourself, what would you want people to know about you? What are the? If I don't know, 5 minutes to write your autobiography now, biography. That was the one that the author writes himself. Yeah. What would you say about you in 5 minutes?
Okay. I think 5 minutes is a lot.
It's a lot.
It's
So
a lot.
let me pull it down to 2-3 minutes.
All right. So my name is Chiamaka Irozuru. Ne Ubanago for those that may know that name.
Yes, that's an household name
Yes.
in this community.
Yes.
Yeah.
So firstly, I'm a daughter of God. I'm a daughter to my parents. I'm a sister to my siblings. I'm a wife to my one husband.
It has to be.
And a mother to my two beautiful children.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Aside that, I'm a quality analyst, working in a tech solutions company. What else? And aside that, I started a mini business of baking and, just home cooking, basically, but in the side of treats, yogurt, parfait, cakes, and all that.
So meaning that if you're looking for the very best parfait around the community, you should supply you.
Well, I just started.
You can ask for a free order first of all, just to be convinced.
Yeah. So yes, I'm still getting to know myself, as it were, and
Tell us a bit about your educational background.
okay. So yeah, I went to primary school, secondary school.
I know. Well, where and when?
Graduated, yeah. Okay, so I went to early life primary school.
Oh, you're in early life.
Yes, I was.
Cool.
Primary and secondary. Well, secondary school, I moved in JS1 to another school, which is part of my story, if time allows. And then I had to come back to early life because it was closer home. So yes, I was there from from small, from nursery, primary, secondary, and then I went to Bowen University. I studied microbiology. Yes, I was in Bowen.
Wow. Awesome.
Yes, I studied microbiology from 2012 to 2016. Yeah.
You actually look like I would have almost
Convent.
yeah, maybe covenant. No, apart from the school, you look like somebody that was a commercial student, like law,
Really?
Like that.
No, I was science. I was science.
Oh.
I wanted to be a doctor, but life gave us microbiology. And at the end of the day, I didn't even want to.
I rejoice with you that you did not go on the medical line.
No, I didn't even want to pursue again. No. Yeah, I'm happy where I am.
Where you are, okay.
Yes.
All right. Did you? I mean, microbiology tech girl now.
Yeah.
How did that
I always say from microbiology to Microsoft. Yes. So
fantastic. So those of you who are reading microbiology, just console yourself. You can move from microbiology to Microsoft. Fantastic.
Yeah, so well,
because some people are depressed now that they wanted medicine and pharmacy, and then you are doing microbiology. You are looking depressed. Look, that's microbiology to Microsoft. It's not your course that determines your destiny. But
actually, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where life basically threw me, and I like it here.
So, at the time you were reading microbiology in Bowen, did you think you were going to practice, or you just know I'm just doing this for?
Well, I wanted to, not practice microbiology as well, but go into public health. To be honest, I'm still interested in the health part, but not practicing as a doctor or just general health. So I wanted to, do my master's in public health, and just continue like that. But after school, I got a job in. Funny enough, that's where I still work. So in customer service, but it's in the technical space.
Yeah.
So I've just transitioned from there, and it's not bad. So my dream of public health, it might still be on hold or not, but I don't think I want to go back to school. Maybe when the children are well grown, I can consider it. It's not. It can be on this side.
Beautiful. What's just before we go into the real gist? What's your position in the family? Are you from a small family, big family? Barnagos is a household name, all right,
yes,
in this vicinity.
So I'm the fourth born.
Oh, okay.
Originally the fifth born. It's still part of my story, but I'm the fourth born now.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're a big family. We are 6 children,
Mm.
born to 2 parents. So plus, other we have a lot of people with us that,
I grew
our
under your space.
yes, that our sisters and brothers. So we are actually a large family.
Oh, large family. Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
now this is not my parachute story, so I'm not going to. I'm going straight to people want to know your experience in the valley of the shadow of death. That is where this conversation is about. So we're going to first start it. At what point in your life did you first come to understand the concept of death? Or at what point in your life did you have your first close shave with, the dreaded concept of death?
Of death. Papa Dee, like I told you, I have so many valley of shadow of death experiences.
The earliest
But
one.
I'll just start so that the story ties up, right? I'll just start with, you said my first experience, just my first awareness of, sickness, let me put it like that,
Yeah.
was in Jess's one, right? So I grew up healthy in primary school, well, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was not a sickly child. But from just one, I went to boarding school. First term to another school, right? That school pampered me. I was living my best life there until I got admission into a federal school in Shagamu.
Oh,
And yeah,
you went to FGC Shagamu.
FGGC Shagamu, yes, but for
Why did your parents allow you to go there when you were when you were doing? You were in a private.
I was in a private school. Well, that one was quite expensive, and
I get the gist.
opportunities are more in federal. I think they believe that the education there was better, like because you have so many people you are competing with, and all that. So we're excited. I even got the admission because they had to tell me, common entrance is hard though. You have to pass. So I was excited that I got in. I didn't know what awaited me. So when I went there, second term just one, it was, federal school now, seniors, bullies, strenuous activities. I started falling ill, right? It became so bad that, there was one time my mom had to come and take me back home. And one of the staff, I can't remember if it's a nurse, doctor, or I think it was the principal of the school, advised my mom to check my genotype just to see what was wrong. So that was the first time, I was, okay, is there something wrong?
Okay.
And then we came back to Festac, to the house. We did the genotype test, and, they said I was sickle cell. And then me and my mom laughed like, what are you saying?
Oh wow! So meaning up until that time,
Yes.
a genotype test has not been done.
Maybe it was like, looking back now, maybe my mom might have suspected. I don't know, right?
Yeah.
But as at that moment, we both were shocked, right? And so we had to, of course, confirm again from another lab, and it was the same thing. And that's where, like, looking back again now, like, maybe it wasn't shock in my mom's face. It was like maybe fear of, this is happening again. Because prior to when I was like 6 or so, I lost my brother, one of my brothers, to sickle cell.
Wow.
And,
Okay.
there's another of my sibling right now too. But, we are managed. God has healed both of us, right? So it's not a concept she wasn't aware of.
Okay.
Yeah, so so that's basically where my journey started from.
Did you, at TS1, did you
Yes.
understand that verdict of saying you checked your genotype and it
And
is?
it was
Did you understand it?
not completely, but I knew that it was like, I knew the genotypes, AAAS and all that, but I was like, I remember saying clearly to my mom, like, these people are not serious. It's like saying a healthy person is sick. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
And, but I wasn't really quite aware of what it meant.
The gravity of
Yes,
that.
the gravity of,
Mm.
that. So basically, that was, my first coming into, what became a journey of faith for me, right?
Mm.
Yes.
Okay. So how so was as at this point you went back to school? That's grammar
Okay.
school. I'm sorry, first federal government girls, college, or they withdrew you from school.
Yeah, so after when we went back to school, because it was still term was still in session,
Yeah.
the principal told me advised my mom that I don't think she can,
Be in the boarding house.
yes, it's too strange, like for her own good, take her out. So that's why I came back to early life and finished there as well.
So you came back to
Yeah.
soft life.
Well, so well, I was closer home,
Yeah.
and of course I was sick, in between, but not, as bad as it was when I was in that school.
Okay. Where in your journey did you find? Did you eventually get exposure to your faith in God? Was that? I know that your family is a family,
Yeah.
that is, very Christian and sound to a good degree, but at what point did your faith, become personal to you?
Personal.
Not I'm resting on my mother's faith or my
Okay.
father's faith.
So
How
that
did you
is
went
still
person-
quite in the journey,
in
right?
the journey, yeah.
Yeah.
So while you were in secondary school,
So, okay, before I get to that, so while I was still in secondary school, one of the things that actually also built my faith was, I was in like SS2 when, my mom noticed something about me, like I couldn't bend well to pick up something, or if I was sweeping, I would be sweeping like this instead of, the way you sweep properly. And then one day she was just watching me and she said, Chiamaka, pick this thing. And the way I bent, you say, it was so disfigured.
Yeah.
And she was like, bend like this, like bend normal. And I couldn't do it. Like I couldn't touch my toes bending, that exercise move.
yeah,
I couldn't do it. And she was like, what's wrong? So I was like, nothing. It felt normal to me. Like, is that not how everyone is? Like, but she was like, I was like, well, my waist pains me sometimes, sha, but as a child, you play and forget a lot of things.
absolutely.
And then that's when she was like, no, something is wrong. And she took me to, hospitals. We did x-ray and they said, oh, I need to go to Ibobi. So I went to Ibobi. You know how Ibobi is now. Come today.
Ibobi.
Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce.
That's okay.
Come today, come
Tomorrow,
tomorrow, come
yeah.
next year, come next week. It was a long process of
So that means
always.
it was a bone issue?
Yes,
Or
so
joint,
it
yeah.
was at Ibobi they diagnosed that I had lumbosacral spondylitis, something like that. Basically, like the
Oh my
the
goodness.
spine should
Yeah.
be straight, right?
Yeah.
Then at L5 there's like different levels.
Yeah.
At L5 and L6 there was a disconnect. So like one of my bones
Shifted.
one of my spine
Shifted.
shifted. And at first we didn't think it was serious, and no, they just gave us pain meds. Come today, come tomorrow, until one day, like I clearly see that as God's intervention, right? One day we went there and they were still posting us until one big allergic came in. When a big consultant, all the doctors were good. And thankfully we were the ones next for consultation. And then so we were in the room and he just came in like, okay, who is next? Show me the x-ray. We were hearing him, look at the thing. He was like, no, this needs surgery. that this is a major thing, this is about to collapse.
Wow.
And then we were not understanding. So, but we could not enter inside. He was talking to doctors.
Yeah.
So when they finished, and one of the doctors that we were talking with earlier came out and was like that, well, this is it. You need a surgery, but I'll tell you the truth. We can't do it here in Nigeria. That's
Wow.
and he was Igbo, so we didn't even know he was Igbo at first. He just told us, frankly, we can't do it here in Nigeria. I advise you take your daughter to another country where they can respond to her. And then I started crying, and my mom was in Igbo. She was like, stop crying, stop crying. The doctor spoke Igbo. Cry, yo, Chiamaka, cry. Cry, this is an emergency, take it seriously. And I can't remember one month it was that, but my mom said we should go. So we went home. She was researching where she can take me to, which hospital is cheap, all those things. For like 2 months, we were still on researching. Me, I went on with my life. It was almost time to even pick prefect. So we were gearing up. And no, so another of God's intervention. So all these things are, points in my life that I can look back to and say that God is real. Coincidentally, one of my aunties came around. She wanted to go to India for her husband. Her husband's kneecap was shaky. He couldn't walk properly. So she said she just wants to go to India, that she has a connection in the India embassy and they've approved her to go. My mom was like, okay, when you go, please help me ask them if they can treat my daughter. She was like, ask them for what? Come, let's go to the embassy and see if you can go. And the next day, I was going to school with my bag, and said, my mom said, come back. So we went to the embassy. They saw the X-ray. I was like, no, you need to go immediately. Invitation letter. Within 1 week, I was in India. And
wonderful.
Within 1 week, visa came out, everything came out. So I, my mom, my dad, and my auntie and uncle, we went to India, and that was January 2010. So we got to India like January 25th or so, or 20. So we checked into. So from the embassy, they already booked admission room, everything for me, because he sent it out as an emergency. And we got there, started doing the X-rays, MRI, everything. The doctors kept asking my mom, is this the patient? They're like, yes, now. Can she walk? Yes. Did she walk here? Yes. Like, this is impossible. She's supposed to be on wheelchair. The way we are looking, like, is dangling. That's her spine is dangling.
Wow.
Papa Dee, they rushed me into the theater. Well, not rushed. They prepped me into the theater on their Independence Day. Normally, that hospital doesn't work on Independence. They just do normal emergency. But to book a surgery on Independence Day, they don't do that. So they booked that surgery for me on their 27th January. And, I did it, and they came out. Thank God.
You did the surgery?
Yes, I did. Sorry, like over 8 hours surgery on my spine.
Wow. And to be candid, no matter the level of competence, every spinal surgery is delicate.
Very delicate.
Dangerous. You can be done with it, and you will never be able to walk in your life, or you will never be able to use certain parts of your body. But they are. So I know I'm familiar with that shock on doctors when you are like, this is what the
scan is.
But this is what there was a language they used during Mama Dee's time. They said something about the diagnosis and then the clinical. I don't know the language, but they were just trying to tell me that the test result is grave and showing that there's really. The person is really in a very critical stage. But clinically, when we observe the person, the person seems to be fine. And we are trying to reconcile the two. So I can imagine when they look at this, say, this spine is dangling. This person walked in here. Like, that must be something they cannot explain. Wow, this is a story I've I'm hearing for the first time, and that's very interesting. All right, so so how old were you here? And what class were you?
I was in SS2,
As a student.
so I was like maybe 16. That was 20. Was it 16?
20 what?
2010.
Oh wow.
So that's like 16 years ago.
Wow.
So yes, I was about 16, 15, 16 years there. So yes,
when you finished the interview, how long did you spend in the hospital?
surgery.
The surgery, sorry.
So we booked for 3 months, and miraculously, I was back home after 3 weeks. So I had to learn how to walk again. They put like irons in my waist. It wasn't visible,
Yeah.
but every time I walked through airport's door, like,
You do
so I had to be holding, reports that there are, like irons in my wrist. So I had to go back in May that year for checkup and go back the next January.
For removal.
So yes, knowing that, like, how I knew that it was actually an emergency, when we went back the same date, January 27th, the next year,
Yeah.
to this is the day we came, so we are supposed to remove these pins the same day. They just kept us aside, that it's not, don't worry, we'll look at you later. We stayed there till February before they even removed the pin, to show how urgent it was then that they could do that for us.
Wow. So meaning, if that timely intervention had not come in, what were they saying was going to happen?
I was going to be on wheelchair for the rest of my life, and once it collapsed, there was nothing they could do about it. So they, like, it was every doctor. I can remember one doctor, Dr. Sundara, like, he was always looking at me with, how can you be like, are you serious? Like, I'm sure maybe after that he encountered God, because I was like, no, this is a living miracle, coupled with my genotype.
Yeah.
And they thought of a lot of complications that could arise, but eventually nothing. Like, as I was entering the theater self, I was smiling to my mom that, don't worry, nothing.
I'll be fine.
I came out, she was like, are you okay? I was smiling, like, the nurses, everyone were so impressed, and
Awesome.
I give God all the glory.
I give God the glory on your
Yes.
behalf too.
Funny enough, like, my uncle and auntie that I went there with, like, they did not even like, I'm not saying they didn't attend to them till like a year later, before they could even know what was wrong. Like, so every time we talk about this thing, they always say we went to India for Chiamaka.
Absolutely.
Not for themselves. Yes. So thank God he's
Oh,
fine.
awesome. This is very, 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 this is a very powerful addition to this story I never heard before, hearing it for the first time. And I'm sure a lot of people that have been listening will also be hearing this for the first time. All right, so let's move on. So you survived all of this while you were in secondary school.
Yes.
All right, so let's move to your university phase of life.
Yes.
Was there any, because usually for the SS genotype, there's usually a lot of recurring time of that they call crisis.
Yeah.
Did you experience this, or it was very minimal during your secondary school and university days?
Well, I had some times when it was really, bad, and then other times it was minimal. And I've always been, that person that will walk into a clinic and the doctor is questioning, are you sure you're SS? So, like, I always understood that.
Yeah, because you do. I remember when, who broke that news to me? I think it was your husband. I was like, no, that can't be. I mean, I can tell from almost an average that this one, there is nothing. He said, look, if you look critically well, you will know that. He was saying, but really, I mean, I was shocked to my bones that, and all of these underlining things were there, because I knew at the point of marriage, at the point of the pregnancy, when you were going to, that's when I actually got to know. So, I mean, it just heightened the challenge at that time. But okay, well, we'll get there. So during the university time in Bowen, there was no particular serious.
There were, even in secondary school, like, there were serious crises. I had to take blood transfusions and all that. But I've always just been, you know, God has just always been there for me. So I always knew that I would come out of this,
Yeah.
through God's grace.
Yeah.
So there were times even in uni that I had to go home, get transfused, come back, continue studies and all that. There was one teacher that, was aware of um the fact that I was sickle cell. And I remember when I was graduating, she told me, Chiamaka, don't bother going back to school. It's not that she said it that way. She was like, if you can get married, give birth to children now that you're still young, so that and all that. And I respected her for that. Talk, she really cared, for me in uni.
Yeah.
So yeah, there were times like that, that I'll miss tests, and I'll come back and she'll help me, tell the other teachers that I need to rewrite all those things. So yeah, there were times in school that it was really bad.
Okay, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we're still on Untold Story, and it is the Cheated Dead, and we have been doing this talk today with Mrs. Chiamaka Irozuru, and she has been, getting us to know the beginning of this journey in the Valley of the Shadow of Death. We're going to take a break briefly, and then we're going to come to the other major gist. This one, I saw it myself firsthand. All right, the one this is the prelude. I wasn't there in that space, but this when we come back, you will know that based on those who, by data, by the statistics, people who have who are dealing with issues with sickle cell always have certain challenges. Apart from the crisis, they are probably not going to be allowed to do majority of the work that people who are not sickle cell will do. They are usually very protected. Because they are susceptible to sicknesses and different kinds of infection. And then usually they are what they call it, their catchment area when it comes to marital choices are very slim, because everybody is very particular. Once a year genotype, in fact, even if you're AS, it has narrowed down more, and you are now they ask here that you are anything SS. The number of people that are interested, they even say most of the time they are not going to get married. Then they say even after, give or take, they don't live beyond a certain age, 21, 30, and all of that. We want you to see that this is a living miracle. There is nothing in this world that can limit you when God puts his hand upon you. So we're going to get when we come back from this break, she's going to tell us about our marital journey. She's a mother of two. She's gone through the valley of the shadow of death, and today she's a living testimony of what is possible with the mercy of God. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Something deep poured me through, a voice that said your time's not due. I walk through the valley where the silence waits, where the door was closing at the edge of fate, but mercy spoke when hope had left, and somehow I cheated death. The night was cold, the road was long. A whisper said you won't go on. The shadows stood beside my breath. I looked straight in the eyes of death. 1,000 storms inside my chest, a fragile heart that would not rest, but something deeper poured me through, a voice that said your time's not due. I walk through the valley where the silence waits, where the door was closing at the edge of fate, but mercy spoke when hope had left, and somehow I cheated death. The night was cold, the road was long, a whisper said you won't go on. The shadows stood beside my breath. I looked straight in the eyes of death. 1,000 storms inside my chest, a fragile...
Untold Story, the Cheated Death series. We are still with Mrs. Chiamaka Irozuru, and we coming back from the break. We want to remind you that this is the Untold Story channel. Please remember, if you are just joining us or you watching live, or you'll join us later, remember to share, to subscribe, and if you are a fan of Chiamaka or the fan of the Mana Group or the Irozurus, share with your community. Don't forget to do that, and remember to drop on the comment whatever. Glory to God, praise be to God. Rejoice with us that she is a living miracle. Drop a comment. We'll be glad to see and read your comment much later. All right, let's go to now. It's impossible. We are deliberate about capturing these testimonies because there are people who think, once you have a verdict of a doctor, that's the final thing. Doctors determine your faith. Professionals in science determines your faith. You will constantly see under these particular episodes of the Cheated Death people that rose above the verdict of science, rose above the verdict of death. They literally, by their faith in God, did the impossible. And it was not by their strength or their might, just the leverage of mercy and their faith in the Lord Jesus. All right, so the impossible would have been, okay, once you are given this kind of verdict, just sit down and watch life happens to you and just say, well, it's my lot in life. They will tell you certain things you should never do, certain things you should never attempt to do. You don't even plan to get married. If you get married, don't get pregnant, because, it's a 50-50 thing and all of that. And I'm sure she heard all of that at different times. But here she is. She'll tell you how long she's been married. She already told you she's a mother of 2 beautiful girls. She's a tech babe. She's living her life on top of the frequency of faith. So let's start with, I'm sure, how did you look at yourself vis-a-vis the future of marriage? And maybe what advice were people giving you, parents, as you're now getting out of university and you now start, thinking about settling down? What were the perspective people were giving you?
Okay, I won't say I had negative perspective really, but I know I had to deal with an internal perspective of marriage. At first, it's not like a physical fear that overcame me, but I just had the I might not even, if I get married, thank God. If I don't, thank God. And then the part of children, right? As a young girl, you always wish, oh, I want 4 children, I want these children. But in deep down, there was always that voice that, are you even sure you will have children with the way you have? Number one, you're sickle cell. Number two, you've had a waist, surgery. And one thing that, gave my mom hope and me as well was when we left India, the doctor was like, she's clear for everything, she can give birth and nothing will happen. So my mom held on to that so much, right? But of course, I was young then, so I didn't even take it to heart. So I was always, would this be like onto me? But yeah, thank God we are here. Yes. So I also wanted to talk on, the journey of faith you asked me,
Yeah.
Earlier. So really, for me, it really started after uni. When I came back, I was already home, nothing to do, and I had a lot of going to another place to worship, coming back, just fellowship anyways.
Yeah.
And there was a time when I really took praying for my genotype to change seriously. And there was even one person that prayed for me and told me to go and check if it has changed. And I went to check and it was still the same, but something happened. I heard it clearly, like, it doesn't have to change on paper. I have healed you.
Wow.
And that is it. So I've held on to that. And when then as well, when my faith was shaking, like, oh, am I really a born again, am I not? Then Sister Bimbo Ajayi was the person I was always calling then. And she really spoke to me for at length one night and tell me your encounter with God. And it had to do with healing. It had to do with the times when I was in the hospital, and he assured me that he has healed me. And then the fact that I woke up one day and said, no, I'm not doing these routine drugs anymore. Because as a sickle cell patient, there is a lot of routine drugs. I grew up taking like 15 medicines at once.
Wow.
And a lot of taking bitter medicine. And one day I told my mom, taste this medicine you're giving her. And she tasted it, and that day she didn't give us again. That was when she read that you're even supposed to mix it with juice, and she has been giving us. So like, I grew up with that anger that why should I live the rest of my life on drugs, and he assured me that you don't have to. But to be honest, I don't take medicine out of it. Like, whenever I go to hospital and they ask me, I still tell them, so that there's still medical intervention and there's faith, because both of them really work for me.
I need to, this thing that you just mentioned, I need to emphasize it, because we lost a dear friend of ours, a pastor friend of ours, last year around November. Looking at him physically, you will know that he probably is SS genotype, or was. The frame showed it. But it's a man of God. It's a man of faith. Loved him, great brother. He was coming to Lagos for a conference, probably through the stress. I think somewhere in my conversation with him in the past, he probably mentioned that he had been healed of a particular, ailment, which I believe he was talking about his genotype. So obviously he was working on the frequency of faith that he has been healed. So he had a crisis in Lagos on arrival. And when he got to the hospital, and the doctors I heard were asking him, based on this, do you have, faith talk? I don't have. So, well, they kept treating him with what the doctor had to say, look, this thing is not coming through. These symptoms that we are seeing is the symptom that relate to somebody that has, But of course, in some sense, it was, well, since I've been healed, I cannot verbalize it. It's not, I don't have it. So they continued. Meanwhile, I guess whatever was wrong continued to take a toll on him. Then, because the doctor also was a believer, said, look, without telling him, they now did a test. And then on his blood, and the test came to still. But at this point, he probably had advanced a bit. All that time that was wasted. We lost him through that, particular crisis. It was very painful. So it's important, because sometimes it is this misinterpretation and the misinterplay of faith and medicine that some people are going themselves into trouble. We have people who say, well, from a particular religious sect in the Christian community, that will not accept blood transfusion. And they lost a lot of their friends and relatives because they believe it's out of context. How can you take another person's blood for whatever? That they will rather subject themselves to the risk. A lot of them have died as a result. They just believe it's out of sync, it's not in faith, and all of that. I'm glad she mentioned, and I need to expatiate on that she believes she's been healed. If any symptom shows up, she gets to the hospital, she still states the fact while embracing the truth.
Yeah.
So that the doctors who are operating know exactly how to engage. Very important.
Yes. All right. So that's basically my journey of faith. God strengthened me through healing. Like, anytime I think of God, is that He's a healer, and I'm a living proof of that. Yes. So now back to marriage. Thankfully, one fine man saw me and married me.
Thankfully. Yes, so we thank the fine man that all. At what point did he know about this genotype history before coming to your hand in marriage?
Yes, so we've been friends for a long while, since a long while. So yes, he was aware of it, especially when I'm not feeling fine. Brothers in drama or will come and see me. But yeah, he knew, or I don't know when exactly he knew, but he was aware before the talk of marriage. Not that
you told him. He discerned it. He's a man of the spirit.
Now I can't remember that exactly. Okay. But I know it did not come up like, oh, did you know I'm a sickle cell, when we were talking about marriage. He already knew before we even started dating and all that.
Okay.
So
you never asked him that you are not concerned about? You did ask him when it was now time for, you're talking of marriage, you are aware of this, what are you not?
Well, I didn't have to ask him exactly, but I knew there were concerns in the family.
Yeah.
So that was a phase we had to also.
When I say concern in the family, your family or his family?
His family.
Obviously. So they were also aware.
Yeah, they had to become aware when we started talking, marriage. Yes. Yeah. So of course there were concerns, questions had to be asked.
Definitely.
Yeah, and for my mother-in-law had to be sure of how to take care of me. I think that was her concern. Yeah. Not that I shouldn't be there, just how to. I know, and her and my mom had a conversation, and that's is not as bad as you think. But anyways, we had to go through that phase, and thank God, we came out successful.
Another point, it's important to emphasize this. They did not hide this from their family. They were very much carried along. It's important to be accountable. I can tell you also that we have had couples within our community. One particular one I know very well. The divorce kicked in 3 years into the marriage because the husband had an ailment that impacted on fertility, and he didn't tell her. probably in the name of faith, have been healed. Maybe you were probably had something that made you impotent, and you were like, word of faith, you have been healed. Your confession is a possession. So you don't want to confess. If during the time of marriage talks, there's supposed to be total disclosure. If the person, did you suffer from these? You know, okay, yes, I had this, but I've been healed. It was, I believe it was never mentioned. Of course, they got married, and it was not difficult to consummate the marriage. All right. And eventually, after 3 years, the sister walked away. So these are some of the presumptions, steps that people take in the name of faith that gets us into trouble. And some people have lost their life and lost their marriage. Don't be caught in that trap. Wow.
Amen. All right. So yes, another concern was if I'll be able to
Continue.
give birth. Exactly, but it was an unsaid concern.
Nobody was bold enough to
it was,
confront
well,
the
maybe not to me.
Yeah.
But of course, I knew that it was there, and well, God being good, after 1 year, and like you said, my husband is a man of God. He's not the one that will, let's have fortune, all this wishing talk. When it was time to conceive Zoe, he just said Zoe is is coming.
Bam! That's a man of God.
And then and I held it so dearly, and after he said it was during.
So even before conception, Zoe had been named.
Yes, Zoe was. Zoe has been here.
Awesome.
So yes, and that was during Youth Week 2020 that we had to new order that it was just COVID year now.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so after
Zoe is a product of new order.
Yes, I like to say that.
Yeah.
So like yes, so conceiving, carrying her, the first 3 months there was no issue, right? But at the 3rd month, which was now January of the next year, was when I started falling ill. I thought it was normal, okay. But I was in the hospital for a while. We had to move from hospital to hospital. What was the sickness? Don't even know. We had to transfuse, be on antibiotics for a while. And that was the time when Mama Dee was, that same January. So it was a lot, we had to, sisters started praying. But yeah, moved past that, like went home. Basically, I was back and forth in the hospital. I had kidney infection,
kidney, yeah.
Infection. Well, it was, they said the baby was really on the kidney, so it wasn't, they call it pyelonephritis or something.
Still remember the names.
So that was one.
Yeah.
And so I had to be treated, like the antibiotics I had to use to clear it was, as at then, which was 2021, it was like over 30K for one bottle. Like that was like, and I had to take like 9 or a lot, sha. So that was just the carrying baby. Then as at 30, I was already like 36 weeks. And I started having sharp pain in my chest, like very sharp pain, like in the midnight. I was, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't be like, my husband had to rush me to the hospital that night. Like people, my neighbors were even looking at me, oh, you're about to give birth. I was like, no, this one is not, I'm not yet in labor. So I had to go to the hospital. And funny enough, I was using other hospitals. And I never used, the hospital I used to give birth for antenatal. They didn't even know I was pregnant. I just said, let's go there. Like my spirit just said, let's go there. And I went there around 2 a.m. The gynecologist came in, looked at me, started me on, antibiotics and all. And she was like, she called my husband aside. We have to bring out baby in the morning. What, like, put your house in order. We have to separate baby and mother to treat her. Like it is bad. Like apparently, I think I had pneumonia or something. So they had to separate baby. So the next day, and I didn't even have a single cloth for Zoe because I wasn't fine to go for sure. So my mom and my sister had to quickly go to market to buy it for me, and the next day, they brought out baby. Thankfully, she was fine. She had to be on oxygen for a while. So back to me, I was in between life and death. Like, they were treating the surgery went well and all that. But after CS, you won't eat for a while. So for like I think when I was supposed to start eating, my stomach was feeling funny, bloated. So the doctor said I should hold on still. So I didn't eat for like 48 hours, and I was so weak. Although I was on fluid and all that, I was so weak. I had to, they already removed, the cat, like they already told me I can go to the bathroom to ease my, I said, let me try and go and ease myself. As I stood up, I was telling my mom was there, that I'm very weak. I got to the bathroom. Thankfully, my husband walked in because he was not around. As I was coming out of the bathroom, I was still telling him that I'm very weak. I don't know what's wrong. The next thing, I'm on the floor. And I remember vividly that as I was falling, I was uttering, Chiamaka is dead. That was the words that came out. Because I was like, in my head, I'm like, is this how I will die? I was uttering those words and came out. I didn't even know it came out until my mom told me later that you said that you are not dead in Jesus' name. I was on the ground. My mom, everybody were trying to raise me up. And what, was very vivid in my mind is, when you have all these dreams that you are trying to wake up and you are trying to call Jesus, the name of Jesus. That was how I was feeling. Like, first of all, it was empty, dark, nothing. And I was trying to call out on his name. It's like, Jesus, Jesus, until I shouted it out and basically jumped up. A lot of people were trying to hold me, trying to put drip, but I jumped up. As I jumped up, I was like, Jesus has healed me. I am alive. And I started naming everybody. You are nurse this, you are nurse that, you are doctor this. It felt like a funny symbol. I know what happened to me. Like, I was gone, but, God brought me back. I was like, I'm in ML. I know what I did a CS, right? Where's my baby? All those things. And they said, don't worry, calm down. Yes, you're alive. Thank God. Sit down on the bed. But I thought that was it.
Yeah.
But the battle was a long night battle, right?
Yeah.
And they tried to put in, they said, maybe my blood was too low or what was they did not even know what was happening. So they tried to, bring blood. They were trying to get my vein, bring drip.
By this time, there was a prayer mobilization going on.
Yes, it was even after, yes, my husband has already called a few people to start praying. They're trying to find vein, but when it was like whenever they put the needle, like electric shock on my body, like my body was already dead. I could feel like, and I didn't even know how negative words were coming out of me. I was like, there's nothing you can do. My body is gone. I was saying this out like, he's dead. You can't put needle inside there. And my husband had to, hold my head and start speaking life to me.
Wow.
And
pause. This is another reason why you need to have husband that have spiritual sense. Not the one that you will put his hand on his head and be crying. The husband took her head and rejected those words, and he spoke life. For the power of life and death is on the tongue, and that's what exactly he did. So another reason to get a man that is in right relationship with God, knows exactly what to do, is the priest of the house, and take his authority and take his position. Not that somebody who the only thing he can provide his money and all that, nothing else. He cannot mount a spiritual guard over his family, over his life. The reason why spiritual intelligence is also very important in this journey of marriage. We have like 5 minutes to cap it up.
Yes, so basically, as he spoke life into me, I started also, speaking life. And it was, I remember that it was as at the point I said, okay, I am here, I'm alive, put the needle. Immediately the needle entered.
Wow.
You know, and they started administering drugs. Like at some point sef, the doctor is a Christian. She had to walk out and start praying on her own, like what is happening.
Wow.
And she came back. But so that was it. That night, to be honest, I was scared to sleep because I was still very faint. Like I was scared that
You
from
won't wake up.
sleep. So so the prayer went on like basically overnight, and you know, God saved me from that. That's just, and you know, since we have just 5 minutes, like after that, you know, I became so well. My second pregnancy, I didn't experience that. You know, devil tried to come, you know, during when I was already ready to give birth with crisis pains and all that, but quickly we got out of it, and it was seamless for the second baby. So
Absolutely.
thank God.
Absolutely. So it's so so suiting hearing this story again. You know, behind the scenes, it's also one of the other things that we cannot cover. You know, many other sides of this story that we cannot cover is make sure you're in the right community. You know, make sure that you're in the right family, the right community. You're speaking the right things. You know the God that you serve. The Bible said, "They that know their God shall be strong and will do exploit." Those that don't know their God, life will exploit them. And it's important to have all these leverages and all this support system around you. There was a community that was constantly praying, you know, and taking care of that which was behind the scenes. You know, while all these battles were going on, we are rejoicing today.
I just want to put a point talking about community.
Yeah.
You know, getting first time pregnancy, you know, you hear, oh, don't tell anybody till you are 3 months gone. And I was trying to, my husband was like, why? Why? You know, and eventually, like, we had to tell people, like, after a while and all that. And then when I was about to give birth to, the same thought, oh, don't tell anybody till you've given birth, so that oh, everybody is surprised. And but I didn't even know that my husband has already created group chats. Chiamaka is in the hospital, you know, entering theater and all that. It was after I saw, you know, the evidence of that community prayer. When I took in again, immediately I took in, I told my community, I beg, there's no waiting till, So this is just to encourage that community helps,
Powerfully about. So I really thank God that he came through, always comes through. Thank God that you are here today, a living testimony of the possibilities that are inherent in the faith in the Lord Jesus and in his mercies. We are glad to see you walk through that valley and come out today with the testimonies. We know there are greater exploits of faith that are still ahead of you, and we are glad that you also have been able to muster the strength to be here in this interview. It's not as difficult as you thought. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is that. That's it. I hope wherever you are, if you are in a state in life, if you have a verdict on your life that speaks about a threat to your life, we're letting you know that that's not the end. No man has the final say. He has the final say. You still have a great opportunity to rise up in faith. The Bible says that we should be followers of them who through faith and patience have inherited the promise. There are people who have walked the walk, who had come in contact with death, and by the mercies of God, they've walked through that valley, and God has brought them out. We believe that God will also bring you out if you rise up today and stretch your faith and reach out to the right community and reach out for the right help. So I want to thank the Digits crew that is behind the scenes. They do a great job. You don't see them all the time. Their reward is in heaven. But we know that their reward also is here. We want to thank everyone who joined us online. Please remember to share, remember to communicate if this broadcast had blessed you. And if you have not subscribed, please check now, click that button, subscribe, and also drop a comment. Let us know where we should improve. Let us know. Or you may also want to share your own testimonies about how you cheated death. Drop it And if you want to come to the studio, you can also reach me. I will look at your story and we'll bring you here. Let's inspire more people to believe God and believe that a death sentence, a sentence of the doctors for a terminal illness or whatever it is, it's not a death sentence. God has the final say. All right. So till we come your way again next week on another very, very exciting and interactive section. This is your friend and brother, Papa Dee. You know, it's a holiday. It's going to be a holiday from tomorrow. In fact, it's going to be a long one from Thursday to the weekend. So it's a long weekend. And get yourself together. Take some time to rest. Observe the Sabbath principle and get ready for another exciting moment from next week. So till we come your way again next time, keep living the faith life. Keep rising above the storms of life in the mercies of God. Bye-bye.
Where the dawn